We're joined by a superstar from High Wycombe to Barry Island to the USA. Our next guest really has done it all.
What do you fancy?
Chicken boner, lamb boner, prawn boner, mushroom rice, bag of chips, keema naan and 9 poppadom.
You might be out in the road, dressed as Maria from The Sound of Music, running out in front of cars, singing a song.
Who killing them in the UK? Everybody better say UK. Crouchy, when I look at you, everything tells me that you should be rubbish at football.
But also, how good is Andy Goldstein?
He's great,
No,
man.
honestly, as like a broadcaster, I
He's
think he
amazing.
is. The great people make you think, I could do that.
I'm talking like staple, tray service, swivel, can, open, drinkity drink, yeah?
You ain't gonna find better than me, Neil.
I already did.
What? Speak up.
I said I already did.
Goosebumps, look at that. Yeah, that's right. Multiple BAFTA, Emmy and Tony-winning actor, co-writer of the legendary Gavin and Stacey, massive West Ham fan, and all-round good guy legend. James Corden is with us in the studio.
Good morning.
Good morning, mate.
Good morning, James.
So happy to be here.
It's our pleasure. How are you?
I'm really well. Yeah, I'm very good.
Thank you for coming in.
It's a pleasure.
It's
yeah,
lovely. We've got so much to talk to you about.
for sure.
Before we talk about football, right?
Yes.
I was just going over old stuff that you've done, right?
Mm.
And I was watching with my producer Ollie this morning when you did the Sports Personality of the Year. I think it was 09, 07, I can't remember. It was nearly 20 years ago. And you stood up in front of everyone, right?
Yes.
You gave, as Smithy, you gave this massive speech.
Smithy won Coach of the Year.
And,
yeah.
I said to the producer, he's got a good memory, right? How nerve-wracking must that have been for you? Was that just insane? Did you have autocue on that? Or was that...
Well, yeah, no, there was a prompter, but the issue was with that is we shot that 8 minutes
Before they
went live for Sports Personality, so we only had one. We could only do it once.
Yeah.
From the standing up in the crowd, the walking through, doing all the stuff. So also, we had to make sure that lots of people were in the audience because as Sports Personality, they all wait in this room before they go out, and we had to go up to like Freddie Flintoff, and what we had to say to him, we had to go, Freddie, we're going to do this thing. Don't laugh along,
Okay.
because it can't look like it's like a sort of roast monologue.
Yeah.
Which is why Freddie's such a brilliant actor, looks so angry in that we just like make out like it's real. Don't just laugh along when we start saying all these things to different people. And the only instruction I was given was you can't interact with Capello, because they were like, you're not allowed to interact with Capello. So when I walked down and I saw him, I thought, well, we can only do this once. So I don't know if you remember, I grabbed him and I kissed him on both cheeks as if I was like his assistant coach or whatever. Yeah. But it was quite exhilarating. I don't know if I've ever done anything probably more exhilarating, because we knew there was no second take. You couldn't go back in after, because they had to dismantle the whole stage. It was,
What was
a
more
good day.
nerve-wracking, that or in the VT leading up to that? You're jumping off top ball with Tom Daly, right?
Yes.
I mean, how you did that? I assumed you would use a stunt double, but then there's a close-up of you falling down.
Yeah,
That's horrific,
well,
right?
It's just no. It's
I couldn't do that.
You're just jumping off. It's not.
I couldn't do that.
No, it's not. Look, it's not nice, but it's not. It's only, what is it? 5 meters? 3 meters?
No, look. Okay.
10 meters? No, 10 meter high board, right? It's the highest board.
Come on, Andy.
Is it 10 in the
I
Olympics?
think it's more than that. I think it's about 100.
No.
It looked high to
No,
me.
so I think it's the 10 meter high board is the highest one in Olympics. No, you're just falling.
I could.
That's all you're doing. You're just
I love
falling.
the one with the England players, the Golden Generation.
Oh, it was
And
so
in that clip, when I'm watching it, Ashley Cole smiling the whole way through.
Yeah.
Beckham's smiling the whole way through. John Terry's trying to be serious. Lampard's trying to be serious. That was hilarious.
Well, they had no idea what we were doing, so we didn't even know which players would be there that day. When we did the Smithy England team sketch, they couldn't. They guaranteed 4 players. Right, that's all the FA would guarantee. So there was this corridor. It's at this hotel called the Grove in Watford, and there's this corridor, and there was maybe like, I want to say 500 England shirts laid out. And when players come down, they just had to sign these shirts. 500 is probably an exaggeration, but it looked like 500. And so what we would do is I would just stand near that area, because you weren't allowed past this bit, and you'd see Frank Lampard. And you go, Frank, hey, mate, hi. And he'd be like, all right. I'd say, we're doing this sketch. And Frank actually went, oh, no, yeah, they said it was, it's not really I don't really fancy it. I was like, please come, like that. And then my great friend Gabe Turner and Ben Winston, who directed the sketch, were texting like Simon Oliveira, who was Beckham's agent at the time, going, please let him come down. They were like, oh, he's a bit tired. He travelled yesterday. We were like, no, I know. And then they all showed up. So a lot of those lines were written 20 minutes before. It's why we didn't have anything for Michael Carrick.
Yes.
Because no one told us that Michael Carrick was coming until he arrived. And we were like, we haven't got anything for Carrick. And we had stuff for other players who weren't there.
It was great.
Oh, it was such
Well, look, we'll talk England a bit later on.
Okay.
We've got you for, I'm hoping 45 minutes.
As long as you want.
Okay.
As long as you
Very
want.
kind of you. Let's start with your beloved West Ham.
Oh, man.
What's happening? Where are we at?
Do you mean where are we at this season or where are we at?
As a club. I mean,
as a club, where are we?
Oh,
God.
Okay, well, I tell you, it's probably easier to talk about. That's what I'm saying. It's probably easy to talk about West Ham right now. In fact, we'll talk about the most recent thing that's happened with West Ham, and that is Sunday.
Yeah.
And Arsenal.
Yeah.
And that goal.
Yes.
And the scenario.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it is. I think it is a foul.
Yeah.
I think anyone that's saying it isn't a foul, that's not the point. I actually don't think. I've not met anybody who isn't saying that it's not. It is a foul. The point is there's 5 other fouls happening at the same time. So what determines which foul you're doing, and the sheer inconsistency in VAR is the very thing that's making fans so angry. It's you cannot allow. So, and I actually think this is going to come to a head at the World Cup. I think because suddenly we're going to have so many different referees from so many different leagues, and I think this really only happens in the Premier League. This new, and it does feel like it's only this season. The idea that the players are literally, I mean, like,
wrestling, yeah,
they're wrestling players down to the ground and just hoping that the referee's eye or that the ball is somewhere else, so that VAR go, this is this, and so I do think it is a foul, but I think the sheer levels of inconsistency and the fact that obviously it's against Arsenal, who are a team who have done this a lot this season, is the thing that makes it particularly heartbreaking. But look, if we go down, it's not going to be because of that goal. It's not because of that decision. We're going to go down because of decisions that have been made over the last 2, 3, 5 or 10 years at West Ham United. That's why we're going to go down. There is a very real issue at West Ham, I think, that every fan can feel, which is, I think what you're really talking about is sort of a lack of identity. I think we've just been getting through stuff, and lots of fans would go, yeah, but you know, and I think those like the Conference League win, and in Prague, I was there. It was the greatest night, and no fan would ever give it up. It was amazing, but I do think that season papered over a lot of cracks that lots of West Ham fans could see, that there is just a sort of lack of vision within the club. Everything feels reactive. Nothing feels particularly proactive. I think we started the season with a squad that was 100% nailed down to be in this position. And we played 3 games before we bought Fernandes and Magassa. Fernandes, I think, is an extraordinary footballer. I think he will go to a team. He reminds me a bit of, is it Vitinha, who's now in PSG, was at Wolves, and Wolves fans knew how good he was, and no one else really took any notice, and now he's at PSG, and we're like, he's amazing. Sorry. I think Fernandes has that sort of ability, but we're 3 games in by that point. We'd lost 3 games. Sunderland away, Chelsea at home, and I forget the third one, before we'd bought those players. So everything is reactive to a situation, and I think if we go down, that it'll be those decisions that are the.
Don't you think it's incredible though that winning the Conference League, you think of as a West Ham fan, all right, 1 European trophy, let's go to the next level, let's try and qualify for the Champions League, Europa League, and then sacking David Moyes, I think was the wrong decision because the grass is always greener. And it showed that, hasn't it? It hasn't worked since David Moyes.
I don't know if I agree with that. And I really love David Moyes. I love David Moyes. What he did for our football club was incredible, and he is a brilliant manager. But any fan would tell you that those seasons that David Moyes was there were depreciating returns. They were. We were, and you know, had we not
the
won
aim be for West Ham, James? Then
the aim should be to be absolutely trying to finish in the top 10. And if you can finish in the top 10, you can finish in the top 7. And if you finish in the top 7, you're playing European football. So, and if you get into the Conference League, like I can actually chart a lot of our issues back. And this is really deep sort of West Ham stuff, so I apologise to anyone.
It's great. Yeah.
I can chart a lot of this back to the season that we were in the Europa League, and we The transfer window had just closed and we beat Lyon away in the quarterfinal to get to the semi-final against Eintracht. I went to that game and I was sat with some owners of West Ham and some of the owners who I really get on quite well with. And I was like, I think, and it was so odd to be at Lyon in a Europa League quarterfinal. And I was saying, I think we've just missed the biggest opportunity we've had as a football club. And they were like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Ah. And that January window, I think we had our owners with what I consider to be like true and pure ambition just for the fans and the football club. If we'd have gone out and bought 2 players in that January, a striker and probably, I mean, at the time I was talking a lot about Calvin Phillips. I was like, just go and get Calvin Phillips. Yes. And then obviously he came the next season and it hasn't, something, and I feel for Calvin Phillips a lot as to where his career's gone, but maybe it would have been different then. But somebody similar, we would have had a deeper squad. And I think those 2 players, there is a very strong chance that we can beat Eintracht in the semi-finals because you can rest Declan Rice, because you've got a central midfielder who can play in this Premier League games. I think we beat Eintracht in those semi-finals because it was quite close anyway. Then we beat Rangers in the final. And then you're in the Champions League. Everybody talks about David Moyes. And as I say, I absolutely love David Moyes. You cannot shy away from or ignore the fact that David Moyes had Declan Rice in his team, and Declan Rice is, without question, the best English central midfielder of his generation. Yes. And he was in that team. If Declan Rice was in our team now, would we be in this position? I don't think so. I think we'd have a minimum of 3 more points than we've got.
We've got so much to get through, right? We've got to go to a break in a minute. I'm going to get in trouble, but it's worth getting in trouble for. So you're talking about a great player at West Ham, right? Another top player you've got is Jared Bowen. Mm-hmm. If you go down, will he go or will he stay, do you think?
I don't know why I think this, and it could just be because I love Jared. I've got a sort of niggling feeling that I feel like Jared might stay. And if I was Jared, unless Liverpool, I think if Liverpool come in for him or Man United come in for him, he absolutely should go, and he should go with every West Ham fan's blessing, because the opportunity to play in the Champions League is something that Jared Bowen, I think, cannot give up. If the question is, should I leave West Ham and go to Everton or, I don't know, Brentford, say, or Newcastle, where you're not guaranteed Champions League football in any way, shape or form, if I was Jared Bowen, I'd say to the owners, I'll take the pay cut, which I think is 40%, something like that. I'll take the pay cut and I'll stay. If we come back up, you give it to me, you give it all to me on the day we go up, and I want a new contract.
James, did you hear, by the way, Gabby saying earlier on that he gets his wife not only to dress him in the morning, but to pack his suitcase when he goes away?
Don't get her, she wants to.
It's her job, and I call it her job. What do you make of that?
I'm not sure that I can't be certain that Gabby's telling the truth on that.
I think
he might be right. He might be right. Maybe,
I don't think you'd go on that.
Maybe I'm on the wind up, and you never know.
I don't think you'd wind that up on the.
Why not?
Because people are going to go for you.
Who cares?
All right, okay, fine.
It's funny.
So you're saying that your wife chose that outfit rather than...
she took a lot of a lot of time.
Alcohol.
Yeah. If your wife chose that outfit, I think you've got deeper problems.
Well, there's hatred there, right?
Yeah,
I'll get him to wear that tomorrow. That'll have him.
He's going to look funny on here.
Yeah, that'll get him. James, before we're going to talk World Cup, but let's talk about you and the World Cup. You're doing a World Cup show, I read.
Yeah, I do for Fox in America. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm doing a show every night after the games.
Every night after so that's tough, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I'm hopeful. I mean, it'll be kind of great. It's good to watch all the games, and then we'll just make it sort of. It's like a silly kind of show. Rio's going to be on it. There's a brilliant comedian called Ian Carmel's going to come down, and we'll just be hanging out, talking about games.
You're doing it in LA, you mentioned. Do you think it makes a difference doing a World Cup show in America rather than England? Will the reaction be different?
It's hard to say, really, because I think this World Cup's going to be quite challenging. I think, I think for lots of reasons, but the idea that it's Canada, America, Mexico just means I don't know quite how fans are going to travel and the cost implications of it. I think it's strange. I don't think anybody's really thinking enough about what the atmosphere is going to be like in stadiums. That's my worry, and I don't. It's just going to be hard for fans, I think. And I also think we were really. I think the last World Cup was maybe the best World Cup we'll ever watch, because it was held in the middle of the season, which is why we got that final, which is the greatest final you could ever see.
Yeah.
You know, when Declan Rice, for example, gets to the World Cup, he'll have played, if you include in England games, he'll have played like 70 games, roughly.
It's insane, right?
And now you've got to play the World Cup. I just think people are going to be tired. I think the heat is going to be incredible. But listen, it's still the World Cup. It always delivers. It never doesn't. So I think it's going to be fun to talk about. I know that for sure.
Yeah. Are you confident with Thomas Tuchel in charge?
I think he's incredible. I think he's.
Do you know him? Did you speak to him at all?
I've met him. Yes.
Okay.
I think he's amazing.
Why are you smiling?
Because you know the answer to this. You know exactly.
I
what
thought
you're
I'd
doing.
ask the question.
Yeah,
though.
I love him. I think he's incredible.
Yeah.
I think he is just an extraordinary manager. I think he's just brilliant, and I think his outlook. I think tactically, the way he talks about football is extraordinary. I think we're.
Who do you think has to play well for us to win it?
Everybody. I think.
Is there one player though that like? Is it Harry Kane? Has to.
Well, Harry Kane has the issue with Harry Kane. I think is going to be can he play.
Yeah.
Can he play that long in that heat? I don't think anybody's talking enough about quite what it's going to feel like to play some of those games in that humidity.
It's horrible.
In June and July, like in Dallas at 5 p.m, I think it's going to be
Can't breathe.
absolutely
Horrible.
draining.
Yeah.
So I think these water breaks are going to be interesting. The game management is going to be the biggest thing, I think. So, you know, people are going to say, I'm mad for this. But I even wonder if later in the tournament, you know, if we get quarterfinals, semi-finals, I wonder if there's an argument for not starting Kane and bringing him on, knowing that these games might go to extra time and penalties, which is absolutely...
I'm sure rotation.
Absolutely.
will be key.
Yeah, but
Yes.
not starting your captain is a huge call. So I'm not sure this is something that they'd ever do. But I wonder if you want Harry Kane at the end of games rather than the first 70 minutes of games.
Well, I suppose
I
the
think.
question is, do you want to try and win the game early or make sure you try not to lose it towards the end, right?
I think Harry Kane does drop off, doesn't he, a lot into that
Yeah.
10 position.
Yeah.
Conserve energy.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll do that even more during the World Cup.
Yeah. I think, yeah. I don't, but also the question is who comes on if it isn't Harry Kane?
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see, actually, if we do rotate as much as I think we should, because in previous World Cups, it's usually the 1 to 11 usually picks itself, right? Unless there's an injury or someone's feeling a bit fatigued. I just wonder if for the early game, if we've got
games.
a team, the group game, if we've got a team where
Panama.
on paper we're like, we should beat Panama.
Yeah, but then you also want your players to start to feel that rhythm of playing with each
Yeah.
other. Certainly your back 4 or 5. People are going to say I'm absolutely mad, but I do think I think about this quite a lot, and I think there is a shout for Jude Bellingham to in those if Kane can't go more than like 70 minutes,
Yeah.
for Jude Bellingham to play up front.
See, I've said that
That's
before.
not a crazy.
Okay, good.
That's a
Are
great,
you,
that's a great show.
are you saying that because you think Bellingham's best at leading the line as a false line, or because we don't have a good enough backup to Harry Kane?
I just think Jude Bellingham is an absolute presence, right? And I think Jude Bellingham, people talk a lot about Jude, but he gets in the box and he scores goals, right? For sure.
Yep.
That is probably the thing he's best at. It's not like you ever see him sort of beat 5 players or, you know, curling a free kick from outside the box or anything. Like, he gets in the box. He is a nuisance. He's such a presence. And I think if you're... Imagine this. Imagine it's a quarterfinal. I don't know who we'd be playing. And Jude starts up front, right? Let's just
it
say...
could be Brazil, by the way, in that game.
Okay, so let's say Jude starts up front. He doesn't take any, you know, he puts himself about, and then in that heat, Harry Kane's coming on in the 65th minute, 70th minute.
As a
If
finisher.
you're a defender, you're like, oh, stop. I'm exhausted, and Harry Kane's coming on. Or Harry Kane's going off, and you're like, Jude Bellingham's coming on. I think there's something about the aura and presence of those players.
Do you know your starting 11 right now, if
I
everyone's
don't
fit?
think I do, actually. I don't think I
There are a
do.
few areas that are a bit...
Yeah, who plays left back?
All O'Reilly.
Yeah, I think probably Nico O'Reilly. I think
Yeah.
he's been fantastic.
So, and then right back is...
James, if he's fit.
But he won't be fit, will he? I don't think he will be fit. So
If he's not fit, I don't know who plays there.
No.
Tough, isn't it? Livermento's out injured as well.
Yeah.
Centre half.
In my head, they just said Trent, and I'm a bit like, I'd take it.
He's not having Trent now.
I know, I
He's
agree.
not having him.
I agree.
Some weird reason.
James, we've got you for another 15 minutes. Is that okay?
as long as you want.
Is that as long as so? If I want to go to make my own show at 10,
Sure.
we'll go over talkSPORT
I can
2.
talk about football all day.
Okay, well-
I normally do.
Yeah, Good. That's why we got you in, right? Remember that the talkSPORT Network brings you the live commentary of all 104 World Cup games. That's going to be amazing. And as always, the best place for you to react next Friday when James' beloved Thomas Tuchel names his final 26-man England squad for USA, Mexico and Canada. Right, stay with us because up next, James Corden is going to tell us why he thinks PSR is ruining the Premier League. I should throw Yasmin under the bus. So Yasmin is outside. She works at talkSPORT.
Yeah.
She's a big cock here at talkSPORT. And she said to me, she went, I love James Corden. I never knew he knew so much about football.
Oh, wow.
So that's nice that that's coming across, right? Because people, obviously, when they see famous people like you and they see you as an actor or presenter or whatever, they don't necessarily know that you are as engrossed and ingrained in football as the rest of us. You absolutely...
It's probably the thing I talk about most in my...
Do you find it frustrating that you can't talk about it more?
Yeah. I want to talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, it's... All my chat groups on my WhatsApp are all about... They're just all about football. And then we've even got splinter chat groups within bigger chat groups. It's like...
You should go live after games with a rant.
Are you ever surprised when you meet all these superstars? Do they ever talk to you about football, like the American market? Have you ever met a Hollywood superstar and he's gone, "Hey, I must talk to you about your mate David Beckham"?
Not that I can think of. Not off the top of my head that anyone that really gets in the weeds of it.
But it's nice, right? Because if you don't know someone and they turn to you and go, "Who's your team?" It's like, oh, okay, we're going to be friends forever.
That's great. Yeah.
And the opposite, right? If you go, "Who's your team?" and they go, "I don't like football," you're like, I don't want to be stuck
What's
with you.
wrong
then.
with you?
Yeah, all right, mate.
Yeah. All right, Gabby. Who dresses you? Right. Let's talk to you about Spygate.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a very bizarre situation.
It is.
I don't know if you heard the top of the show, but for the life of me, there's no way I can see Southampton being kicked out of a competition. But I think they should have a heavy fine.
I think with a lot of these things, when you kick when we all sort of talk in broad brushstrokes and kick them out of the competition and things like that, I think you're not really thinking about all of the fans that were in St Mary's last night. Those players, there was none of those players on the pitch were like, "Oh, Gaffer, can we get a deeper look at what they're doing on set pieces?" I think it's funny. I was listening to Henry Winter, who said a financial ban is irrelevant, and I don't know if that's right, because I think if Southampton go up, they will make what from the TV revenue
150 plus.
So let's say it's 100. Let's just say it's 150 million pounds. Then you've got to give 50% of next year's revenue, whichever league you're in, to Middlesbrough, because because you're cheating, and it is cheating.
Yes,
if found guilty.
Yeah. Which I think is pretty bang on.
Okay.
Your cheating has prevented them from progressing to go up to the Premier League. Next year, regardless of whatever league you're in, 50% of your revenue, or your projected revenue, so it has to be paid at the start of the season, will be paid to them as compensation. So if they go up, they've got to give them £75 million, which basically means Southampton will probably go up next season. Middlesbrough will go up next season. Anyway.
I do love that, right? But the only problem with it is the fans that will be missing out, because the fans will be saying, "Well, we don't really care about the money. We don't get a cut of that. We're going to miss out on Premier League football."
Yeah, but Middlesbrough with £75 million starting next season,
they're in a better place. Yeah,
it's going to be incredible. They will, they should go up at a canter. I would imagine. That's what
I think, Zard, is that what would they have learnt from spying? Is it someone's going to take a certain set piece? Is there a player that's meant to be injured that's going to play? It's so ridiculous to put yourself in this situation, isn't it? For that.
It's difficult to know. I don't know enough about how training, what I mean? I don't know enough about what you would or wouldn't see, but there's, you've also got to ask the question, is this something they've been doing all season? Is this something they've been doing in other games?
Yeah.
Can other teams go, are you in a position now where other teams this season could go, well, hang on, let's look back at our game. And they absolutely, how did they know that we were going to play that short corner? Because look at where their players are placed.
Yeah.
I think we should also stop calling it Spygate, and we should just call it cheating. It's just cheating. Yeah. You're just cheating the system. That's all you're doing. You're cheating those fans. You're cheating those players. So therefore, you should have to pay, I think, a very severe and heavy price, which I imagine they will do. I imagine that's what it will be. I imagine it will be a financial, but I cannot see a world.
Nor can I.
Where you could, because they'll just wrap it up in so much red tape. It's the same as like the Man City, the 115 charges and all these things. It's this 115 charges is insane how long it's been going.
Yeah. I think it's 1 year per charge. We got to wait before we find out.
But it is nuts. And I think the only way you can deal with I've got real feelings about like FFP and PSR and all those things, but the financial regulations, and if you have broken those things, the idea that like there's maybe, what is it, 3 or 4 clubs have been charged and paid the fines or taken the deductions or whatever. I think the rules should be, as long as an investigation is taking place, you cannot sign any more football players, which would make the clubs go, well, we want this wrapped up as soon as possible. Because if you look at January, and Man City were 9 points adrift of Arsenal, and they go and they buy the 2 best players in the Premier League that are available to them at that point. They go, we need a defender, get Gahey, and they get Semenyo, who was without question at that moment the best player that was available to them at that point. They claw those 9 points back and it's done. Then what's going to happen, probably this summer, or September sort of time, maybe, whatever the Premier League decide will come out. Then they're going to appeal it. So that's another 12 months.
I agree with everything you're saying, but the problem is you're effectively saying it's guilty until found innocent, right?
No, you're saying you cannot operate financially.
I know, but if you're found not guilty, then you've wasted maybe 2-3 transfer windows, and that's not fair.
Yeah. But fair since none of it's fair. FFP isn't fair.
I know, but it is innocent till proven guilty, right? You should be allowed to go on your merry way.
But you also shouldn't be allowed. Okay, so maybe you give a 12-month window. If this goes past 12 months and we feel that you as a club are dragging this on.
I like the way we've negotiated down to 12 months there.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I
do understand that these things are complex, and none of these things are
look at Leicester.
Black and white.
Leicester lost points this season.
Leicester
that happened quick.
Everton lost points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it comes back to this notion that now we are in a position, I think, where the Premier League are absolutely terrified of any damage happening to this, what we call the top 6.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're all joking about Tottenham going down and how much we're all that like it and all these things. If West Ham go down, right, it's a football story, okay? If Tottenham go down, I think it's a boardroom story. I think the sort of ramifications of that it does to the Premier League if Tottenham go down are more extraordinary than any of us can ever begin to imagine. I think it is crazy that you're probably talking about 250 to 400 million pounds of value gets wiped off every other top 6 team, right? Because no one's going to be buying or talking about buying Aston Villa or Man United or Liverpool. 2 of the 3 of those have been put up for sale within the last 3 years, going, come and take us if you'd like to. Suddenly you're like, well, no, because if Tottenham can get relegated, anyone can get relegated. The valuations of these teams are going, and then by proxy of that, the valuation of the Premier League drops down. And I think the Premier League are going, this is a disaster for us. It's a disaster if Tottenham go down.
You think they'd rather West Ham then?
No question. I'm not saying there's any conspiracy. I don't believe that for a second.
No, I understand what you're saying.
I do think
I get that.
When they put in the FFP and the PSR, they sold us this thing that, like, this is just to protect smaller teams from going out of business. We're protecting communities and all those things. And there is an element of truth to that. But what I really believe they were doing is pulling up the ladder and pulling up the drawbridge to protect the top 6, because all you're doing now is rewarding historical success.
Yes.
Because what you're saying is, if you can only lose 100 million every 3 years, right? But if your revenue, so take Brentford's kit sponsor, right? Brentford's kit sponsor next year, they've got a new sponsor coming in. I think I'm right in saying they're paying between 7 and 10 million pounds a season, right? To sponsor the front of the shirt. Yeah. Tottenham, AIA, is 40 million a season. And they, by the way, don't have a relegation clause. So if Tottenham go down, AIA still have to pay 40 million a season. How is it fair that you can never, ever bridge that gap? You just can't get close to it because the revenues,
look at Newcastle now, right?
Yeah.
The richest owners in the world of sport.
And you can't move.
No.
So what? And
Manchester United finished so low in the table last season, but they're going to spend over 200 million.
Now, I don't believe that you should ever put a club into debt that you can't afford. However, I think if you can prove, we're not lumbering any debt on the club here. We are paying cash. We've got the money.
Yeah.
We want to pay it. Let us do whatever we want. There is no debt here. We're not lumbering Newcastle United or Aston Villa or Everton with any debt. We're lumbering them with nothing. We are spending this money ourselves because we own the club. You should be allowed to. And that top 6, and this is what you're seeing with the Man City charges and all those things, they will not allow it because they're like, well, we're the most important part of the league. You see it in the global numbers that are watched around the world.
Yeah.
It's massive. and the drop-off is huge between a West Ham Crystal Palace game comparative to an Arsenal Crystal Palace game, right? But we're at a point now where this FFP is just hindering everybody. So when you ask me the question of what do West Ham want to do, what can they do? What can any team do? Because the league themselves are preventing clubs from ever being able to truly compete when you put such restrictions on them, and at the same time, one of these top 6 can have 115 charges, and it will take a decade to deal with. I just think we're at a point now, and the Premier League have to be very careful, because what makes the Premier League great is the incredible competition around it, and not what makes it great is how many people are watching in other countries on TV.
I've just been told we lost you there. Can you say all that again for me? Is that
Sure.
right?
I've
about 9 minutes
I've
ago.
said it so many times.
James, what a pleasure. We've got a list of questions here away
You can
from
ask
football. We
him.
just don't have to. Have we got time for a couple? Oh, producer's good. Okay. So these are just some lighter questions. We knew you were coming in, so our production boys and girls have put together some funny questions. Out of all the reality TV shows, does Celebrity Traitors tempt you the most? Would you do that?
I guess so, because at least there's an element of warmth. Oh no, but I think the best sort of celebrity show is like Last One Laughing.
The
Jimmy Carr show.
The first was
I would say it's that.
Bob Morton was genius. Question 2, with Ryan Reynolds and KSI doing it, would you ever want to own a football club?
Well, I think it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because on one level, your romantic side goes, yes, this would be amazing.
West Ham?
I fear, like if someone was buying West Ham and there was some kind of, I don't have the money to be able to do that sort of thing in any way, but I do think you could put in place some things at West Ham where you would start to be working 5 years ahead of where you are right now.
Would you like to be the new Karen Brady? Is that what you're saying?
I think I could do an okay job.
Question number, I think 3. If you were going to write a comedy about a sports team or story or an individual, who would it be? That's a tough question to throw on you. Would you like to write a sports comedy, I suppose?
I'd love to try and write a sports film. There was an amazing story, it's too long to tell you now, about an ice hockey player, which was an incredible story, which I've always thought would make an amazing film. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. Who do you want to be next James Bond?
I'd really like it to be Callum Turner, because I think he's a good working class boy, and I think it would be great to see somebody from where he grew up.
Yeah.
Be James Bond. I think it would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last one. Okay, so West Ham might be going down. If they are going to stay up, maybe they need some kind of Smithy speech to inspire them. If they were listening now, what would Smithy say to them?
Where you wouldn't be able to broadcast it. You wouldn't be able to broadcast it. His issues would be more with the... the first thing... Should I tell you exactly what Smithy would say?
Yes, please.
He'd say, right, Nuno, I've got nothing but respect for you, and I like what you've done over the last 12 games, okay? It's great. And maybe we wouldn't be in this position had when you come in, you played a right back, and a left back, and then I think it would have gone quite off the rails. But that is, I think, a massive issue as to why I think Nuno is brilliant. I hope he stays. I doubt he will, but I'd love it. And if he doesn't, it should be Scott Parker, no question.
Okay.
But why he came in and played a right back at left back and a left back.
Made a few mistakes, didn't
I'll
he,
never be able to get my head around it.
No.
Ever.